operates here for both the center and the assembly member, from the Coachella Valley to the Imperial and the entire district in the San Diego area for the senator. So welcome all of you, and if I missed some of you, I'm a board member, certainly an important one here. Wouldn't forgive me if I forgot him. So Oscar Suarez, thank you for being here as well. I'm good to support you. With that, I just want to introduce the program that we're doing out here. For the last 5 years, we've been doing air monitoring as part of a National Institutes of Health program. And we were able to design a PM10, a PM2.5, and we do have health experts here who are at Comité that understand all the ins and outs about respiratory problems and asthma, and we do work here on asthma intervention. But particular matter does affect the rates of asthma. It affects the quality of life and the respiratory health of both children who are very vulnerable, seniors who are very vulnerable, and everybody in between who are all susceptible to asthma by being exposed to prolonged periods of time of these particulates. Of course, the smaller particulates affect the organs, the heart, could cause cancer-mediated diseases. The larger particulates for the measured PM10 do cause respiratory problems, can trigger asthma. These are all regulated measures, part of the Clean Air Act, regulations that are handed down to authorities into the state, and then are further implemented here locally as well for both mobile sources and stationary sources. And I know this is a lot of technical language, but it is important to talk about that, because as communities, a lot of times we've always just hearing what regulators, the talk of regulators, which is all science-based, regulatory-based, the instrumentations, and for many years, basically we just take that final number and we never really know what goes into making those calculations. And by participating in citizen science, which as a result of the great work that Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia put together in the bill of AB 617, and further supported by the senator, and the amount of power that they bring to the legislature made it successful for AB 617 to pass. What that does is it does many things. It targets emissions reductions in communities. It empowers communities to participate in citizen science, to democratize our participation in helping create a healthier environment for our community. In Imperial, we've been successful to conquer that challenge, because today we operate the largest air monitoring network in the state of California and perhaps the nation. And according to Dr. Michael Jarrett, who's one of our partners, has said this is the most sophisticated system in the hands of communities in the entire world. And so we have about 13 of those monitors operating in schools, and they have now utilized this information, real-time information, to implement programs such as the air notification program, which is similar to a rainy day schedule. If it's poor air quality, we don't want students out in the outdoors being exposed and potentially triggering an asthma. And a lot of times that effect doesn't happen immediately. Sometimes it takes days or weeks before these students feel that the effect. If it's, air pollution doesn't discriminate. And so the other things that we're doing as part of this is now that we're dealing with the issues of the Salton Sea, and it's great that, again, through the championing of legislation and through Proposition 68, there's another $200 million and potentially more money that comes to Salton Sea. This data is very important, because at one point, we weren't on the map. I've been doing this 17 years, and I remember a time where I literally just said, I'm just from San Diego. Because it was easier to say that than every time, spend 5 minutes explaining where in the map we were. Now, we say we're from Imperial Valley. Oh, yeah, that's the Salton Sea, or you're by the border, or you guys got the monitoring program, or all these great projects that are happening. Like, times have changed. Things are changing, and I'm really optimistic. So a little bit about Comité Cívico is involved in various projects in the community of Imperial County and the Eastern Coachella Valley, from community air quality monitoring, asthma interventions, the school air notification program, the youth environmental health internship program, and Salton Sea COEE, which is a campaign to bring awareness to the entire valley. All these programs help us and allow us, the data that we collect allow us to better inform our programs, And all of our programs that I just mentioned are all benefiting from the data we're collecting. What we're doing today is that we're very grateful that the state has now put $10 million towards air monitoring programs. Initially, they had a $5 million to provide technical assistance to get programs off the ground. But again, the great work that our legislators are doing in California, that doubled. It went from $5 to $10 million. And 26 projects will now, in the state of California, do similar work to what Imperial is doing. We're very fortunate to be in that list of the 25, and the CARB will more accurately explain that. But we're very fortunate to be in those 25. And what we plan to do is to expand, now conquer that next mountain or hill, is that we're going to be launching methane monitors in the Imperial Valley, and we're going to be expanding the work that we did here in the Imperial and duplicating it into the northern part of the northern part of the Salton Sea, so that we have a complete coverage. Air pollution travels from the north to the south and east and west. So the more coverage that we have, the better information we have, and the better we can tackle these problems by targeting those sources, those emissive sources, whether they come from the desert, whether they come from truck traffic. And I like to acknowledge that even though we're not in a metropolitan city, we're neighbors to a metropolitan city. We're suburban to over 1 million in population. My calculations is we're way above 2 million already between the Coachella, Imperial, and Mexicali. We share the air. We are a metropolitan environment, and we can no longer be treated just as a rural. We need to be able to tackle the transportation. We need to be able to tackle the Salton Sea. We need to tackle all those sources, and this type of data and information will help us target those sources so that they can be the creation of better, more accurate policies and better health interventions. And we're very thankful for the California Air Resources Board, for the legislators, for having this vision and being able to put these dollars not only in communities, indirectly in the hands of communities. And for that, I'd like to thank California Air Resources Board, because they did a great job in assuring that money had all the right mechanisms to assure that it actually went to the environmental justice community. And that's the big problem that we have seen over the years. We have faced that challenge time and time again, having to compete with large organizations, having to compete with organizations that aren't here in our communities. And this year, California Air Resources Board made sure that they put a proposal, a request for proposals, and it was requiring that the applicants were vetted environmental justice groups actually operating in the community. So for that, I'd like to thank them for that. Other than that, I just want to acknowledge that before I leave the podium here, that the California tracking program has been instrumental getting us here. We didn't do it alone. We had good science, and that's really important as we continue to conquer the citizen science area. Is that we want to make sure that anytime any community is dealing with monitors, that they're using good science, good regulatory methodologies, and expect do nothing less than that, because that is where the value is of the work that we do. So I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Paul English from California Department of Public Health, Dr. Michael Jarrett out of University of California, Los Angeles, Dr. Vanessa Galavisa, University of Washington. These are people who are both helping advise us or directly involved in this work that we're going to do with this funding that we're getting, $500,000 from the California Air Resources Board. I'd like to recognize again the California Air Resources Board, my team that operate here at Comité Cívico, that have the schools air notification program, air monitoring team, the asthma intervention team, the youth environmental health internship team, the Salton Sea campaign team, and many other programs that we have here. So I'd like to thank them all. And special thanks again to Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia and Senator Berrueso. And I'd like to bring it back to Miguel to lead us into the next presenter. Miguel. Thank you, and welcome to Comité again.
Thank you. So our next presenter, a representative from ARB, Veronica Eady, Environmental Justice Representative from California Air Resources Board, which has been instrumental for us, for Comité, and for the monitoring program. And I would like to invite us to the podium.
morning. I've been up since 4, trying to get here. I'm really happy to be here in Imperial Valley today, and I'm really happy to be able to talk about this grant program. I've been with the Air Resources Board for just over a year, and within my first month of being here, so it was April of last year, I made my first trip to Imperial Valley to visit CCV, and it was my introduction to this great organization and its great work. I came with Richard Corey, our executive officer, who wanted to come down and have a tour of the monitors. And pretty much since that time, April of last year, we forged a really deep partnership with Comité Cívico del Valle, and we recognize that not only are they a beacon here for the Valley, but they really have set the standard for the environmental justice community and air quality and public health issues related to air quality monitoring. So this is a really special day for me. About the AB 617 and the grant program that led to this $500,000 award. AB 617 was a bill that was passed last summer. We have one of the authors here today and also a member of the Air Resources Board, Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia, who had the foresight to put this law together to do a number of things, but in the end to reduce air pollution in disadvantaged communities. In getting to reducing air pollution and putting together these plans, part of the law requires community air monitoring. We're in the process of laying the foundation for AB 617, laying the framework for what all of the air districts, including Imperial Air Pollution Control District, will be doing to establish community air monitoring throughout the state. But one of the most important things, or at least for me, the most exciting piece of AB 617 is putting money into the hands of community-based organizations and Indian tribes and faith organizations who are battling air pollution problems in their local communities. As Luis said, the legislature awarded or granted $5 million last year from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, also known as California Climate Investment, and had the foresight to put that $5 million into the hands of local communities. We sent out we put together a grant solicitation program from Volkswagen. And as I talked about building this grant program, I have to recognize my colleague, Ryan Atencio, who's here today, who is the architect of this grant program. So without Ryan, we wouldn't be here today. But we sent out this grant announcement in late February, I think it was, and for $5 million, and we were oversubscribed fourfold. We got almost $20 million worth of really great proposals for air quality monitoring, for raising awareness, for establishing school flag programs, and it was a really tough decision who we were going to grant this money to. In the end, we designated 28 awardees, of which Comité Cívico del Valle is one. 25 of those are community-based organizations, and then there are 3 Indian tribes who have also been awarded money. In the end, for those 28 projects, we needed an extra $5 million. And the legislature, in its wisdom, granted an additional $10 million actually to support this grant program. We awarded $10 million in this round. We have another $5 million that we're going to be awarding within the next year. But basically, this grant program is designed to raise awareness and build capacity in disadvantaged communities with air quality problems. As I said, we've been a partner with CCV for over the last year, so it was really fortunate that with this grant program we were able to deepen our partnership and really allow CCV to be the leader and the model for across the state, where in Oakland, California, and in the San Joaquin Valley, and in San State, the environmental justice organizations and community-based organizations are following the lead of CCV and establishing their own air quality monitoring networks. CCV's grant will provide members of high-risk groups the information that they need. And the power of this program, as I said, is the democratization of air quality data. And I say that, I think that I am quoting Luis Almeida, who coined the term democratizing air quality data. But that's where the power is, putting air quality data into the hands of people so that they can decide on whether or not they're going to go outside or let their children go outside, and they can work with their local air districts to put together programs that improve the air quality for good. So I'm really, really happy to be here today. I appreciate the invitation. And I look forward to continued partnership with CCV and their leadership in this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Next up, I want to invite our Senator Ben Wetzel to the podium. He's been a great part of our team, along with Assemblymember Garcia. They put together Salton Sea for Salton Sea, which is also relates to our air monitoring program. So we have a great champion right here. First one up is Senator Ben Wetzel.
Thank you, and I'm very, very pleased and honored to be here. I want to congratulate everyone for working together and make this possible, especially my colleague Eduardo Garcia, who has been a passionate champion for environmental justice and working to address air quality. This is a first big step. I think what we're really celebrating today is the combination of science and passion for serving the community and wanting to improve the community, mixing that with a scientific, through science, gathering this data is going to be very helpful in understanding the problem much better, and we can't really solve a problem without fully understanding it. So this is a remarkable effort, and I just also want to thank Veronica Eady for her involvement and for her hard work with CARB and for making the trip out here numerous times and making the effort to really fully comprehend the problem. This is an effort where we're combining that localized initiative with the power of government to make change. And without having that initiative, our tax dollars can't go as far as we would otherwise. I think you really can't tackle a problem without understanding it and living within the challenges of the problem every single day. And that's what we have here with the Comité Cívico, people that have been living this problem and have had enough and want to see change. And we want to be part of that effort in ensuring that we have success in achieving our goals. We can't ignore the conditions that we live with here every day, where we are, consistently living in a community with the poorest air quality in the nation, of which had, I think it was 128 days of poor air quality last year. Basically, 1/3 of the year, people are living here in conditions where the air quality is considered unhealthy to live in. What does that do to our children and their development? What does that do for everyone's, work output, where they're working in conditions like that every single day? It's 1/3 of the year. It's a shame. It's something that we can't just stand by and continue to tolerate. We have to do something about it, and it has taken a monumental effort for Centro Cívico to be heard by government. When I first got to Sacramento, I came there interested in doing something about Salton Sea, and it was interesting. When I got up there, most people had never heard of the Salton Sea. Now, if I'm in a committee or in our caucus and I raise my hand, they say, jokingly, they
say Senator Wetzel wants to say something about Salton Sea. You know, and that's good. For me, now it's like at least everyone here knows that there is a problem, that there is a place, and that there is a water body in our state. And most of them will probably be pretty well versed in explaining what that is. And I feel that we've never had that before. So it's been a concerted effort. It's been Imperial County, it's been Centro Cívico, it's been a Comité Cívico, it's been, you know, the IIDs, everybody together, expressing their concern, educating leaders at the state and federal level. And now I'm very, very, very proud that I get to work with somebody like Eddie, who's passionate about solving this problem, who sets out every day to say, we're going to do something about this, and this is going to be, you know, how we handle this. And we work on that every single day, and it's nice to be here after years of working on this and saying, okay, we're finally getting money from Salton Sea, we're getting money for air monitoring, we're getting money for restoration projects. We're moving forward and we're making gains, and it's like I said, I can't say it enough. It feels really nice to be here and to come to this community and say we have yet another victory that we can celebrate, another milestone that we can advance, another milestone in the future that we're waiting to realize that we're working toward it, and we've had success, and we know we're going to continue to have success as long as we continue to work diligently and with a sense of purpose. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this effort and working with you. And again, I just want to thank the Comité Cívico for standing up and not just standing by, and to be part of the solution, and now leading the state in this effort, in their level of sophistication and their approach to monitoring is really creating a state standard. And that is just unbelievable. That is just something that we all need to be grateful for, and we all need to applaud the Comité Cívico for their initiative and their willingness to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Well, before we move on to our next presenter, I want to acknowledge and give thanks to our local air pollution to help been part of our air monitoring program to achieve success on this goal that we're setting and that we have achieved so far. And next up, I want to introduce one of the authors of 8617, or Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. Great to be here. I want to acknowledge Miguel for wearing a tie today. Good. I have a hard time having our team members, my staff, introduce me as you introduce me, and for a great introduction of your boss. And I was able to convince one of our team members to do the same for us. See? In all seriousness, let me begin by saying 8617 is one of the most significant advancements in air pollution laws that has been passed in decades, not just in California, but across the country. And it was a collective effort in the conversation about what we were going to do in California as it related to extending the cap and trade program. And there was a lot of give and take in that process when we set up that policy to continue a carbon market and generating what are the climate change investments in California, but making sure that we put front and center the issues of air pollution in communities like Imperial County and other places in California that a colleague from the LA area would say has been ignored for many, many decades as it relates to air pollution being caused by stationary and mobile sources in and around the port areas. And so for us, it was extremely important that the air pollution problems that are central to poor communities of color that are economically challenged become a priority in the overall discussion of the cap and trade debate at the state last year. By that, we've been able now to, as Luis and Senator Wetzel has mentioned, really elevate, what's happening here in Imperial County, both on the challenges, but yet on the opportunities. And I'll go with the opportunities first, because the challenges, we all know what they are. The opportunities now are that we are mirroring a scientific community-based program that has initiated itself here in Imperial County and now being implemented across the state of California. It's just one part of what AB 617 does. And so for us, that's an extremely important piece to the overall efforts that we have here to continue to highlight air quality problems adjacent to the border and the rest of the northern parts of Imperial County. You've mentioned the Salton Sea, you've mentioned other types of air pollution causing problems. And yes, right, monitoring them are extremely important. Knowing what is in the air at that particular time of day is extremely important. As the phrase says, knowledge is power. It's the difference between a family allowing their children to be outside and playing, and the outcome of that being the emergency room later in the afternoon. That's really what we're talking about, being able to have the information at that right day and moment in time to be able to make those critical decisions. And so this doesn't happen without the partnerships that have already been mentioned. So we're very grateful to Comité Cívico for taking the lead on this, and certainly the partnership that has been established with ARB. Veronica, thank you for being here with your team. Without a doubt, this doesn't happen without the air pollution district here locally to be able to add some coordination. So thank you, Matt, for being here as well, supporting these efforts. But more importantly, it's the people behind the program. It's the team here at Comité Cívico and the residents that are participating as an extension of the Comité Cívico team to be able to get the data and be able to disseminate that information to the people of our community. So for us, it's extremely, it's a happy day, it's a good day, because the work that we do in Sacramento oftentimes takes a long time to be able to see the fruits of that effort on the ground. Yet here, a year into this program, a year into adopting this law, we're beginning to see the rollout, and we're beginning to see the funding make its way to our district. For the senator and I think I can speak for him on this. We have two objectives: is passing public policy that's reflective of the needs of our district, and it's a diverse district, and so there are a lot of things that we will do that sometimes, people will question, well, why this or that? I represent Coachella Valley and Imperial County. He represents Imperial County and San Diego County. There are a lot of diverse needs in that area, and so there are a lot of different areas of interest on the policy side. But one thing that I think we all have in common is that we all want to see the money that we sent to Sacramento come back to our district. And so pushing policy is on one end, one of the priorities. The second is bringing home the money and being able to stand here with you all in recognition of the $500,000 that will make its way back to Imperial County to expand the air monitoring program is a great success. And so I want to congratulate Comité Cívico, all of its partners, and of course, I said this yesterday at a press conference. We were able to make an announcement, leadership of the senator, $40 million for a new CHP here in Imperial County. I said, there isn't another tag team duo in Sacramento on the Assembly and the Senate that works as close as we do, and that we're able to coordinate to the best of our ability to make sure that we're delivering in the district that we represent. And that's really, at the end of the day, hopefully the message that we can take away is that working in partnership, we actually can make things happen and bring home the money to be able to do the things that are needed here in Imperial County. So thank you for the opportunity to be with.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And I would like to congratulate the CCV team for these big achievements with our partnership. And I want to give CCV team a round of applause for this effort. And I really want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Veronica and her team, Matt Esser for being here as a representative from our local air control district. Obviously, Assemblymember Garcia with the CAB, Senator Ben Wetzel with his staff too. And thanks for the media for also being here. Thank you everybody for making this conference happen. And there's some waters in the back if you would like to take some. And thank you guys for coming.
Is there any tequila, man?
I don't remember.
I don't know if Assemblymember Garcia, Benuesto, or Luis would like to take some questions from the meeting. Yeah. So if there are any questions, yeah.
Sure. Bueno, primero estamos aquí reunidos en la oficina del Comité Cívico para celebrar el nuevo dinero que llega aquí para asegurar que el sistema de aire que maneja aquí el grupo Comité Cívico sea ampliado por parte de la Imperial. Son $500,000 que vienen del Estado, de los fondos del programa de cambio climático del Estado de California. Se proponen por parte de la legislación, la AB 617, que es una de las leyes más avanzadas para las restricciones respecto a las leyes de calidad de aire en el Estado de California. Entonces, queríamos mandar unas palabras en español para que los medios también tengan que mencionar. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Channel 13. Can you explain for us what are some of the activities that will be addressed through this grant?
So our program that we designed as part of our current air monitoring system is we designed an entire program that is a community engaged program. So in working with California Tracking, they help us integrate science. We bring in our community steering committee to help us guide in every step of the way how we deploy these monitors. And we do it in a couple of different ways. The program it's got a lot of elements, but the main elements are that we want to make sure that the community participates in identifying the sources of concern. Then we work with our scientists to help us do a scientific methodology, both based on those fence line pollution sources that we can monitor, but then be able to create a scientific model that also follows regulatory methodology. So it isn't just the work that we do as an organization. We do the installations, we do the operations, we do the data communications to the public, and then work with our scientists and experts to help us develop a communications format to be able to communicate that data that we're collecting into some type of health advisory. The new monitoring that we're going to be introducing here into the Imperial Valley is methane monitoring. Methane can come from, let's say, sources of like feedlots. There's dumps, for example, would have sources of methane. There's many different sources. So our expertise, do you have, what other sources do we have for methane?
We have landfills, agriculture.
Landfills, agriculture, feedlots, and
Wetlands even. Salton Sea wetlands.
Salton Sea.
So we gotta look at the big picture and all that.
right. So
We're not just focusing on Imperial, but what's happening here, but statewide from oil to gas.
And the purpose of doing this type of monitoring for methane is to help us better understand how methane interacts with our monitors, first of all, to proximity to populated areas, because ultimately we want to make sure that if these sources of emissions are reaching populated areas, how it's affecting them and how it's interacting with their quality of life and their health. And ultimately, work with our regulators and figure their solutions to that. 617 brings money to help solve those types of problems, which is a plus. Because even yesterday we had some meetings in collaboration with local air districts, and there were concerns from the industry, like, oh, there's more regulation. But north end of the Salton Sea into the Coachella Valley. And I know over the years, the assembly member has recognized, Luis, Comité is doing all these great programs, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to see these programs in the Coachella Valley as well. So for us, it's an important thing, not only scientifically, we need to understand how pollution interacts from both ends. And by having PM sensors on the north end will help us when wind travels north or when it travels south. But it also brings this tool and this resource that we have benefited here locally into the Coachella Valley so that organizations out there, so schools, and others can implement the same type of programs that we're implementing here.
IBC, continuing on the methane monitor this year, how many methane monitors are expected to be deployed and at what locations will it be set up at?
So we have about 5 monitors that we're gonna be deploying out here, right? And a large part of the expense of these types of projects, although that it may seem $500,000 is a lot of money, we do have to conquer the entire scientific, we have to build a scientific capacity to be able to take raw processes and be able to convert that data into a regulatory formula. And so we're working with University of California, Los Angeles, Dr. Michael Jarrett, the California Department of Public Health, and the California Tracking Program, and their scientists. So this money goes to be able to create scientific projects to be able to bring a benefit to a local community. So these are all partners that are all part of this project, and we're working together. $500,000 is not enough. So there's other partners that are also working with the same scientists. And we're going to be able to take the knowledge here and other partners who are also had received some funding will be able to leverage the cost and offset the cost of science. Scientists are expensive. Academics are expensive. And we wanted to make sure this wasn't just one of those things where we just buy, products out the web and or China and just plug and play. This is a true scientific project. This is communities participating in science. This is citizen science. And that's the standards that we hope to bring in working with regulators.
And at what locations will it be located at?
That's the next step. As soon as this project gets off the ground, which I imagine might be in July, then we're going to convene our community steering committee. We're going to meet with our scientists, and we're going to go through a step-by-step process to assure this is you heard me mention before in Veronica's, we want to democratize science. In order for us to do that, we want to make sure it's a community participatory science project. So we will take the guidance from the community. They will tell us what their concerns are, and then we'll bring the scientists to help us fill in the scientific and regulatory methodologies that go with that. So at this point, we don't know. We want to hear from the community. They will tell us what those concerns are. The scientists will then make sense of that through science and health and regulatory.
Bueno, quisiera decir en español si pudiera que esto es también lo que estamos celebrando hoy. Es algo que también, un mensaje que tenemos que compartir con la gente de nuestra comunidad, que cuando hay un problema social, la gente tiene la habilidad de tomar control de las situaciones sociales. Tenemos aquí un grupo local que ha tenido una inquietud social, que se ha levantado a decir, ya no queremos tener contaminación aquí en el medio ambiente, está afectando a nuestros jóvenes, a nuestros hijos, a nuestras familias, y se han levantado para ser parte de la solución. Ahora ellos han liderado para crear una nueva ley en California que va a tener el resultado de crear información muy necesaria para ayudarnos a resolver estos problemas de la contaminación medioambiental que tanto afecta a nuestras comunidades. Es muy bonito ver eso, pero no solo es bonito que se han levantado y han dicho queremos ser parte de la solución, pero han liderado un programa que es uno de los más sofisticados en el estado para monitorear la contaminación en el medio ambiente. Y eso me da mucho gusto de haber podido tener, aunque sea una muy pequeña parte en esta campaña local, pero me da mucho gusto haber sido parte de esto para ver que en nuestras comunidades hay gente que dice sí se puede y vamos a ser parte de la solución y vamos a corregir los problemas que tanto nos afectan, que tanto nos afectan a nuestras familias.
Yes, I have a question, Senator Wessel. The work and the investment towards better quality in the area from the state perspective, what repercussions is it having throughout the state?
I wouldn't call them repercussions. I would say doing nothing would have repercussions of hurting people's health. I think what we're doing is trying to develop the data necessary to provide us, to help us come up with the solutions necessary to solve this problem. Where contamination is coming from is essential. Where the majority of it is concentrated is essential to know. Where it's moving, all those things are the starting point. Understanding that is the starting point. The next step is going to be a concerted effort at the state level to start making those investments. We have a series of laws that have been championed by individuals here at the table to raise the resources necessary to solve these problems. The question is, where will that money be best spent? Where will it be best invested to get the best results at improving air quality across the state? And we won't know that until we have that data available to us. And it's gonna drive the policy. There's no doubt.
So is Imperial Valley being used as a model to apply to other communities throughout the state?
I think it's fair to say yes, that the air quality, air monitoring systems that we're talking about here today are going to be mirrored up and down the state of California. That's one part of the overall effort in Assembly Bill 617. I will tell you that what we're talking about here now is really placing above anything else these regions of the state that are disproportionately impacted by air quality or other environmental issues at the top of the list. I think the word that comes to mind is equity, right? Making sure that when we look at these places up and down the state of California, we begin in those hotspot areas, and that we apply our funding resources equitably. That means that for the many years that we've not invested in these particular areas, that we make that up, because we've got a lot more work to do there than in other places throughout the state. And I think that's really what ought to also be one of the takeaways here, is that we're seeing investments make its way to Imperial County because of the disproportionate impact of air quality and other environmental issues that we're faced with here in Imperial County. And so we continue to push the idea that an area like Imperial County needs to be prioritized from the standpoint of not just the environmental problems, but also the economic problems, right? And the word is co-benefits, seeing that these dollars that make their way to places like Imperial County have additional co-benefits above and beyond the intended objective of monitoring air, developing plans of action to mitigate or minimize those issues in this region.
I want to have a question. I just would like to say, as a community member, I would like to say thank you for looking out for the small communities. As they say, we're not small no more. We're a huge community now with Mexico and San Diego and everybody else. But at least you guys are bringing attention back where it's needed. And I would like to appreciate and give thanks to all the groups here involved, that you guys are doing a great job. And me as a community member, I would like to say that we are looking what you guys are doing, and we appreciate everything you guys are doing for us.
Yeah, the Air Pollution Control District would like to echo that. Getting these monies to our community is so vitally important in delivering the projects, smart projects that could be enhanced, embraced, leveraged with partners. Could you, Senator Wessel and Senator Garcia, could you share also your recent success in getting the daytime population counts at the border areas to assist us in other areas to get additional funding, fair, equitable funding to our unique community.
So as was mentioned earlier, the Senator represents the border region of San Diego along the border region here with ourselves. We are authoring legislation that would incorporate daytime populations to these border regions for the purpose of making sure that those numbers are accounted for when we're talking about eligibility or other funding sources that are available to again address the air quality and other environmental challenges that are disproportionately impacting border regions. And one of the debates that has taken place in the process of pushing the policy has been that we are putting other regions of the state at a disadvantage. I have colleagues that will say to me from San Francisco or Los Angeles that, wait a minute, what you're doing is you're putting us, our regions, them, in a disadvantage when you're elevating the situation in the border with the daytime populations. And my response to them continuously, and they get it, but they have to push back for their constituency, right? They get it, that there isn't another Senate district or an assembly district that borders another state and another country, an international border with 1 million plus people that have that additional burden of pollution to deal with, right? And so no one can respond to that because there isn't another Senate district or assembly district in California that can make that argument. So the policy is moving forward, and if successful, I think it becomes a very good formula for future opportunities when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to public safety and other types of problems that are caused and see higher impacts. We're living next to the border. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly of living next to the border. And one of them is having to deal with the pollution that makes its way this way. There's no wall tall enough or big enough